investment.
Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of this hour. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi says she wants to accelerate talks on amending the constitution and reforming imperial succession rules. Speaking in Parliament, she calls for cross-party cooperation to revise the Imperial House law and advance national debate. President Donald Trump warns Iran it has 10 to 15 days to strike a deal over its nuclear program or face really bad things, as Tehran threatens to retaliate against the United States if attacked. Amid a major US military buildup in the Middle East, Trump says talks are progressing but insists Iran must agree to a meaningful settlement. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is released from police custody after being arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office over claims he sent confidential government documents to Jeffrey Epstein. Detectives from Thames Valley Police question him for hours as they investigate the allegations. Hamas says any political path for Gaza must begin with a total halt to Israeli aggression and the lifting of the blockade, following the first meeting of President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. The group adds that any future arrangement must guarantee Palestinians' rights, including freedom and self-determination. South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol apologizes for the hardship caused by his 2024 martial law decree, one day after being sentenced to life in prison. In a statement released through his lawyer, Yoon says he is deeply sorry for the frustration caused by his actions. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says the country has moved beyond its worst difficulties as he opens a key party congress in Pyongyang. State media quotes him saying the nation now enters a stage of optimism and confidence after years of hardship. Venezuela's ruling party-led legislature approves a limited amnesty bill that rights groups say does not go far enough to free hundreds of political prisoners. Interim President Rodriguez releases some detainees while easing oil tensions with Washington. French President Emmanuel Macron clashes with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni after a far-right activist is beaten to death in Lyon. Meloni blames left-wing extremists and calls it a wound for Europe, while Macron urges her to, quote, stay in her lane. We start this hour in East Asia, and in her first speech to Japanese Parliament following her election victory, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has pointed out to Japan's growing concerns over China's increasing military activity and its unilateral efforts to alter the status quo in the South and East China Seas. Despite the ongoing tensions, Takaichi has reiterated that her cabinet remains focused on fostering a strategic and mutually beneficial relationship with China while ensuring Japan's security and interests are safeguarded. Let's listen in to her statements on the issue.
私たちが慣れ親しんだ自由で開かれた安定的な国際秩序は今大きく揺らいでいます。そうした中、我が国は戦後最も厳しく複雑な安全保障環境に直面しています。中国は東シナ海、南シナ海での力、または威圧による一方的な現状変更の試みを強化するとともに、我が国周辺での軍事活動を拡大、活発化させています。中国とは戦略的互恵関係を包括的に推進し、建設的かつ安定的な関係を構築していくことが高市内閣の一貫した方針です。重要な隣国であり、さまざまな懸案と課題があるからこそ、意思疎通を継続しながら、国益の観点から 冷静かつ適切に対応しています。
Dr. Tomohiko Taniguchi joins us now, a former advisor to late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, joining us live from Tokyo in Japan. Thank you so much for talking to us on these issues, Dr. Taniguchi. It's always a pleasure to do so. These heightened tensions in the South and East China Sea, what can we expect from a renewed Takaichi government where she has seen a supermajority in the Japanese parliament? We know she is a China hawk when it comes to her foreign policy. What kind of laws is she expected to pass? What policies now she has that huge majority in the House?
Remarkably, Japan so far has had nothing such as what the United States, the UK, and other nations have had as regards intelligence gathering capacities. Takaichi spelled out the growing need for Japan to be better equipped with intelligence of all kinds, and she's eyeing passing a bill to create Japan's equivalent of NSA, MI6, and the like. So that's one. So without intelligence, you couldn't seriously think and talk about beefing up your deterrence capacities.
And given these comments, Takaichi's also said that she does still want to maintain a mutually beneficial relationship with China. But in practice, is that realistic given those current tensions that are underlying?
Ironically, that is getting more realistic than perhaps 3 months ago, because Takaichi is now endowed with a massive amount of political capital. Xi Jinping is giving her a second look, and President Xi of the PRC values someone with big power. The relationship between the two nations will therefore be stabilized.
And do you think China is testing Japan's red lines with this increased activity, particularly in the East China Sea, or is it simply projecting routine power with that increased presence in the Eastern Sea in particular?
First of all, hardly a day goes by without Japan looking at incoming vessels from Chinese authorities testing to enter Japan's territorial waters. So obviously China has been testing the will and guts and determination of Japan for many, many years. Takaichi has stated something that previous governments have all stated.
And you yourself, you advised Prime Minister Abe during a period when Japan began redefining its security posture. Do you see Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's approach as a continuation of Abe's doctrine when it comes to its relationship with Beijing?
It's safe to say that Takaichi is trying to add on the foundation that Shinzo Abe has laid in order to strike an even better balance between China and Japan. No leader in the East Asia or Indo-Pacific region can neglect the big amount of economic stakes that she has in China, whereas at the same time, it's got to do a lot to safeguard your own national security, your territorial integrity. That's exactly what Shinzo Abe tried to do, and I think that's exactly what Prime Minister Takaichi aims at doing.
Dr. Taniguchi, do stay with us as we turn to a related development coming up next. Pacifist groups from across Japan have gathered in Tokyo to protest the Takaichi government's plan to acquire US-made Tomahawk cruise missiles. The Japanese Ministry of Defense has announced that the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force will expedite the purchase of 400 Tomahawk missiles, which are set to be delivered between 2025 and 2027 as part of efforts to enhance Japan's counter-strike capabilities. Representatives from various civic groups from regions including Yokosuka, Seibo, Maizuru and Karo, all of which are home to Japan maritime bases, have voiced strong opposition to the missile deployment. Civic local leaders have also raised concerns over Japan's accelerating military buildup, warning that the introduction of Tomahawk missiles could signal a broader shift towards military expansion. They also fear that this could pave the way for potential constitutional amendments allowing Japan to engage in offensive warfare. Dr. Taniguchi joins us once again. Japan, of course, since the Second World War has had a pacifist stance, particularly when it's come to offensive military action. However, Takaichi here, a hawk when it comes to her foreign policy. What is the public consensus when it comes to this? We're also seeing an increase in defence spending to 2%, one which used to equivalent to NATO's. Of course, that's increased now. But what's the public appetite for more focus on defence when it comes to Japanese policy?
Well, if the mandate the voters have given to Takaichi is any guide, one should safely say that Takaichi's stance and actions when it comes to beefing up Japan's deterrence capacities have been well understood and accepted. Certainly there are groups that are protesting Takaichi, but they are fully aware their actions would hit headlines across the world. So it's an attention-grabbing exercise, and it's going to affect very little because the number of people involved, I must say, is very small.
And do you think Japan is adapting to a harsher security environment here, or abandoning decades of restraint?
Japan is in a neighborhood that you couldn't envy. You get Russia, China, North Korea in between. This neighborhood is one of the most precarious, and you must be better prepared for the unilateral actions that Takaichi mentioned that China exercises almost daily. And North Korea is building its nuclear arsenal. So it's been long overdue for Japan to have counter-strike capabilities to strengthen its deterrence capacities.
Dr. Taniguchi, thank you so much for joining us. Apologies. Do stay with us as we have another update coming for our viewers. And Japan's Prime Minister has also taken note of the ongoing nature of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, stressing it is important to quickly end Russia's aggression. Takaichi reiterated that Japan will continue to support Ukraine in close coordination with like-minded countries while fully respecting the will of the Ukrainian people. Despite the current difficulties in Japan-Russia relations, Takaichi has said that Japan's policy on resolving territorial issues remains unchanged. Dr. Taniguchi joins us once again. What more do you have to say on this, in how Tokyo aligns itself with the West when it comes to conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war and negotiating in an area, as you said, with countries that are allied to Moscow, like Beijing?
We should not let authoritarian regimes to blow its horn of victory. That's the stance that Tokyo has had since the beginning of the war, and Tokyo is fully prepared to work as much as possible with European allies and the United States to terminate the war, not to merit Moscow.
Dr. Taniguchi, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. It's always a great pleasure to speak to you on these issues.
Thank you. Thank you.
We now move over to South Asia, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has engaged in crucial bilateral talks with global leaders during the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. Notably, he met with Prince Alois of Liechtenstein to discuss strengthening cooperation in trade, technology, and other key sectors. Slovak President Peter Pellegrini also met with the Prime Minister, calling their meeting a historic moment for Slovakia-India relations. The discussions focused on enhancing bilateral ties in various sectors, including, of course, artificial intelligence. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva arrived in New Delhi for high-level talks with Prime Minister Modi today. Both leaders are aiming to boost bilateral trade to $20 billion by 2026, with a focus on AI, pharmaceuticals, and critical minerals. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres also met with Modi, underscoring the global importance of AI in solving global challenges, particularly in terms of governance and ethical deployment. On the sidelines of the summit, the Indian Prime Minister also met with the Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayake. The presidents and leaders discussed expanding cooperation between the two nations in the sectors previously mentioned and regional security. The AI Impact Summit in New Delhi has continued to attract global leaders, industry experts, and policymakers. Discussions have focused on AI governance, innovation, and the role of emerging technologies in shaping the future of global development. We move on now. US President Donald Trump recently wrote a letter to Bangladesh Prime Minister Tariq Rahman, congratulating him on his decisive victory in Bangladesh's parliamentary elections. Trump emphasized the importance of strengthening US-Bangladesh ties and urged Rahman to take decisive action on defense agreements offering Bangladesh access to advanced American military equipment. According to reports, he also highlighted the need for implementing a reciprocal trade agreement, which he said would benefit both countries' farmers and workers. Trump expressed hope that Rahman would maintain the momentum in trade relations and continue fostering bilateral cooperation. Dr. Sanjay Kumar joins us now. He's a journalist at the Korea Herald. He joins us live from Seoul in South Korea. Thank you very much for joining us here, Dr. Kumar. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. What outcomes and advancements in relationships do we see between Dhaka and Washington after Tariq Rahman's victory just last week?
Thomas, first of all, we should applaud the Bangladeshi people that they have elected a new government. And from Washington perspective, it is really critical right now to engage Bangladesh into its economic interest agenda, as well as the larger Indo-Pacific alignment. And especially it is very critical because Bangladesh also has to, now take part and join for broader engagement in the Indo-Pacific. And that is why it is like killing two birds with one stone from Washington's standpoint. At one point, the Bangladesh government is elected democratically, and that is why it is very easy for Washington to engage Bangladesh into its agenda and the future-driven economic cooperations. And from geopolitical perspective, it would be a very important region because now Bangladesh is going to emerge. If it aligns with Washington, it is going to emerge as a regional player when it comes to Indo-Pacific alignment. So in a broader sense, economics as well as geopolitics, both things are going to be very critical, and Washington may leverage these two aspects.
Indeed. Dr. Kumar, do stay with us as we turn over to our next story. Now, according to Seoul's foreign ministry, South Korea and Canada will hold 2+2 talks between their foreign and defence ministers in Ottawa next week to enhance bilateral relations. The discussions will be followed by the signing of a joint military and defence intelligence sharing agreement and a press conference. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun will meet separately with Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand during the talks. The most recent 2+2 talks between South Korea and Canada were held in Ottawa in November 2024, where top officials from both countries discussed key bilateral issues. Dr. Kumar joins us once again. What more can you tell us about the relationship between Canada and South Korea and the importance of it between both the countries?
Thomas, it is always important to strike the iron when it is hot. When you see the volatile Indo-Pacific and you see the volatilities and the geopolitical uncertainties, both these middle powers, Canada and South Korea, they are trying to make this world more certain and which may align and which may serve their national interest. And that is why the timing is very crucial. From Seoul's viewpoint, we have to understand the needs of Seoul. There is a geo-economic angle here because many South Korean companies, they need Canada's support when it comes to critical minerals and to build a stable supply chains, and at the same time to utilize the energy cooperation potential that Canada and Korea, and especially Korean technologies and Canadian technologies have. So there is a geo-economical angle. And then from diplomatic perspective, for Seoul, they really would like to engage through this middle power initiative because they want to, strengthen the cooperation. They want to boost the confidence between the middle power economies and middle power countries, and Canada is one of them. So from Seoul's diplomatic standpoint, it is really critical. And in long run, in order to engage Canada, on against North Korea would be also very fruitful. So there is a geo-economic as well as a diplomatic interest which is going to serve to South Korea. And Canada also, likewise, they are also looking for a very stable partner in the East Asia. And after engaging China, I think it would be a balancing act for them to engage Korea also, because Korea and US are in ironclad alliance. So in a way, Canada is trying to engage the linchpin in the East Asian region. So for Canada also in long run, it is going to be important. So it's a win-win geo-economic and diplomatic interest for both the countries.
Dr. Sanjay Kumar, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. It's a great pleasure to talk to you. We now move on, and an Italian judge has ordered the local arm of Spanish food delivery service, Glovo, which is currently under court administration, to regularise up to 40,000 delivery workers. According to reports, the Milan prosecutors earlier this month have placed Glovo's Italian unit, Foodino, under judicial supervision and its chief executive under investigation for alleged exploitation of workers. The Milan judge has confirmed that the decision, initially implemented as an urgent measure by prosecutors, and instructed the court-appointed official temporarily overseeing the firm to ensure its 40,000 delivery workers in Italy were legally employed. Tesla has unveiled a cheaper Cybertruck variant in the United States and slashed the price of its most expensive model, the Cyber Beast, as the electric vehicle maker struggles to find buyers for its pickup trucks. Tesla has priced the new dual-motor all-wheel drive model at $59,990, making it the company's most affordable Cybertruck yet, and lowered the Cyber Beast price to $99,990 from nearly $115,000. With a price cut, Tesla looks to be discontinuing its Lux package for the model that included supervised full self-driving and free access to its supercharge network. But that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.